Extreme Monsters, Book 1, The Blue Moon Effect, Chapter 7, The Blue Moon Effect. Val was standing trackside with Jinx, Wolf, and Mumford, who had hurried over to the stadium to catch Steiner's race. The four made an odd-looking group. Next to Val in his grandfather clock outfit was Wolf, dressed as a Swiss accordion salesman. Jinx was decked out as the Golden Gate Bridge. Of all the extreme monsters, Mumford had put the least effort in his costume. All he'd done, it seemed, was wind hundreds of yards of wool around his mummy wrappings. When Jinx had quizzed him about what he was supposed to be, Mumford had mumbled, "A ball of yarn." As the extreme monsters awaited the start of Steiner's event, Val briefed them on Doc's kidnapping and the theft of the MPF 1313. It was all he could do to keep Wolf from jumping over the guardrail, accordion and all, and going after Cletus. "We'll deal with him later," Val said. "Right now we have some races to win, and some people and monsters to protect. That's what Doc would want us to do." "I agree," said Jinx. "Besides, I don't think Damon would dare harm Doc. All he probably wants to do is keep him out of action for the games. Or force him to reveal the secret of his new formula," growled Wolf, still fuming. "I have an idea," Jinx said. "Mumford's speed climbing events aren't scheduled until way later." "Right, so," said Val. "So while we're competing, he could snoop around the park looking for Doc and the missing moon screen. Once he finds them, we can figure out a way to get them back." "Works for me," Val said. "Me too," said Wolf. "How about you, Mumford?" inquired Val. "Are you up for it?" Mumford nodded yes. "Excellent," Val replied. The public address system crackled on. "Attention, attention!" a voice boomed out. "BMX racers, take your places." "Here, everyone," Val said. "Put on some MPF." He opened up the paper bag Steiner had given him and passed out the tubes. Much to his surprise, Mumford, like Steiner, refused to take one. Mumford said magical bandages were enough to block lunar rays. With the full moon getting brighter and his headache getting worse, Val had neither the time nor the patience to argue with the mummy. So as Mumford wandered off on his scouting mission, Val squeezed out a whole tube of MPF 1313 and applied it to his skin. Almost instantly, his headache stopped. Doc's formula worked like a charm. At last, Val felt free to turn his attention back to the games. Steiner's event was a half-mile race, twice around the quarter-mile track, with the fastest finisher winning. The BMX course was laid out in a squiggly loop, like a lasso dropped on the ground. It had tight corners and tricky jumps over steep dirt mounds and watery moats. The bikers were lined up at the starting line, their leg muscles tensed for the push-off. Val could see that each of them was wearing a neutralizer wristband. That meant Cletus couldn't use any of his magical powers to accidentally squirt skidding slime under Steiner's wheels, or pour gluey slime into his gears. So far, so good. The official at the starting line raised his electronic pistol. "Get ready, get set, blam!" The field of 8 BMX bikers exploded off the line in a cloud of dust. Cletus shot into the lead, managing to box Steiner in behind 4 slow riders. On the first turn, the slime brother leaned way down and grabbed a handful of dirt and rocks. As he accelerated into the straightaway, he tossed the rocks over his shoulder. so they'd rain down on his opponents. Hidden by the fog of churned dirt, Cletus's dirty trick went unnoticed by the judges. Coming into the first jump, Cletus opened up a strong 10-yard lead. As he soared over the first hill, grabbing big air, he glanced back and grinned mockingly at Steiner. The extreme monster was wiping grit and dirt off his plastic visor. He was struggling to find a way to punch through the sluggish pack. Steiner took the jump with a burst of speed. As he sailed over the crest, he decided to show the crowd that an extreme monster couldn't be pushed around. He pulled an electrifying 360, flipping his bike forward end over end until he landed upright, spewing dirt on the crest of the next hill. It was an amazing jump of more than 80 feet. In one move, Steiner had leapfrogged over the heads of the 4 more cautious bikers. He was now solidly in second place. At the moat, Steiner trailed by 3 yards. By the end of the first lap, he was hugging Cletus's tail. As the first jump came around again, Steiner pulled even. Cletus poured on the heat, but Steiner stuck with him. Taking the jump together, they both went airborne. Cletus performed a tail whip, spinning the back part of his bike around like a top, seeking to knock Steiner off his BMX. But Steiner saw the trick coming. With a mighty tug, he pulled his BMX up and over his opponents. Still climbing, Steiner pulled off 2 more rotations. Cletus gawked at Steiner's 1080 flip. The crowd gasped. Steiner touched lightly on one wheel on the far side of the next crest. It was awesome. Unfortunately, the Slime Brother didn't land as well. Cletus's BMX, still spinning, clipped the near side of the hill. Cletus flew over the handlebars and into a muddy ditch. It was a fitting end for the pendant goon. Slime in the slime. Steiner couldn't help grinning as he pedaled to an easy win in record time. This was just the beginning of the Extreme Monsters route of Team Pendant that night. Jinx swept all her street luge events. Wolf utterly destroyed Clem's slime in the half-pipe competition. Val set a new Halloween record in street skateboarding. Then Steiner returned to nab another gold in the BMX street riding event. At the midnight break for entertainment, the scoreboard showed the Extreme Monsters in first place by an unbeatable margin. Team Pendant was third, due to a good showing by Scott Squire in the freestyle inline event. Just as the Numbskulls were setting up on stage for their rock concert, a buzz went through the crowd. Fingers, paws, and claws pointed up toward the moon. "Dudes, look!" Wolf cried out. "The moon's going kablooey!" Sure enough, just as Doc predicted, the full moon was turning bright blue. The earth darkened, the temperature dropped, and the air crackled with magic. Val felt his stomach knotting up. "Uh-oh," he said under his breath. "I guess it's final showtime in Lunarland. Guys, check it out," Jinx exclaimed, gesturing toward the stage. The Numbskulls were a group of extremely unusual musical zombies, but at the moment they looked more extremely unusual than usual. The lead singer was trying to stuff a chair into his ear. The lead guitarist was mooing in his boots. The bassist's head had sprouted a unicorn horn. Val scanned the audience. Dozens of monster athletes were scattered among the crowd. Each was wearing a neutralizer wristband. Val could see that all the wristbands were glowing. Some were giving off huge sparks. That could mean only one thing. The neutralizer circuits were overloading. Raw monster energy was pouring into the air. Wild, crazy magic was on the loose and affecting everyone, monsters and humans too. Next to Val, A centaur dressed as a lost sock suddenly morphed into a pair of dice. A teenage yeti on a skateboard poofed into a creature that was half crow, half book bag. Two humans munching on hot dogs calmly decided to switch heads. A girl who'd come as an exclamation mark screamed when she saw that she'd grown vampire fangs and a mermaid's fin. Bolts of monster energy were shooting from wristbands everywhere. They bounced off objects and zapped whoever was in the way. With each new zap came a shocking change in shape and personality. Jinx checked her watch. "Oh my gosh," she cried, stepping carefully over a cyclops who'd shrunk to the size of a chipmunk. "There are 12 minutes and 40 seconds more of this." Val heard a deep whirring noise. Damon's satellite dishes had switched to full power. The 8 collection dishes were now focused on the moon. They were greedily soaking up oodles and oodles of blue moon rays. Val felt a tug at the back of his clock suit. "I found him," said a small voice. Val turned around. Man, that's terrific. You found Doc?" The little mummy nodded. He motioned for Val to follow him. "Hey guys," Val called to his teammates. "We're going to rescue Doc." Mumford led the extreme monsters to a large satellite van. It was covered with a huge plastic sheet painted to look like branches and leaves. "Camouflage," whispered Val as a bolt of magic smashed into a nearby tree. "This is probably Damon's control center." Mumford lifted up a flap in the back. Above the license plate was stenciled the number 37. Val noticed a thick red cable running from the dish atop the van to a giant storage battery a few yards away. Smaller black cables branched out from the large red one. Val guessed they had to be the feeder cables from Damon's other dishes. Val ran over and felt the side of the battery. "Uh-oh," he said. "What?" Jinx said. "It's swelling." "The battery's swelling," said Jinx. "Swelling and trembling. Swelling and trembling," repeated Wolf. "Swelling and trembling and hot." "Uh-oh," said Jinx. While they were talking, the battery had started to bulge way out. It began trembling so violently it made the ground shake. Val had an idea. "Steiner, shake the van." And Steiner gripped the side of the van and used his great strength to rock the vehicle back and forth. Val cupped his hands to his lips and yelled, "Earthquake, earthquake, run for your lives." An instant later, the door to the van flew open. A terrified Damon stumbled out, falling on his face. "What's happened to me?" he cried as he discovered his new look. Lizard skin and a pig snout. Cletus and Clem hopped out after him. They'd been changed into a pair of identical tonsils. Having no feet, they slipped on their own slime and piled up on top of their boss. Last to emerge was Vincent. The Raven tried to flee through a window. A bolt of magic hit him first, though, and turned him into a mosquito bite. While Val dashed inside the van to free Doc, Mumford unwound some of his yarn and used it to tie up Damon and his henchmen. Val found Doc sitting in a chair strumming on a guitar. A bolt of magic had changed him into Elvis. "Drop the strings, Doc," Val shouted. "We've got to shut down the battery." "I can't stop playing," drawled the musical Doc. "Then tell me what to do," Val pleaded. "Flip switch 5. Doc sang. "That'll reverse the poles." Val flipped the switch. Almost immediately, the ground stopped shaking. Val looked out the window. The storage battery was debulging. Blue moon rays were shooting harmlessly up into space. The pressure was off, and disaster had been avoided. Val heard Jinx giving the countdown. 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2, 1. Val and a finger-picking Elvis ran outside. They looked up. The moon was no longer blue. They looked around. No sparkling wristbands. Monsters and people were rubbing their eyes as if they'd just awakened from a very bad dream. One by one, they were poofing back to their old selves. With relief, Val heard the numbskulls tuning up for their first number. When he turned to congratulate Elvis, he found Doc standing beside him instead. Even Damon and his gang looked normal again.